Hey everyone, Yang Yan Zhao back again. Today, special guest, the Shade of Vengeance himself, Ed Jowett. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You just can't get rid of me, can you?
Why would I want to? Actually, it's been a few months since you've been here, and last time you were here, we were talking about the Kaiju game. So I just wanted to follow up with that. How did that end up?
Very nicely. It went really well on Kickstarter. I'm just going to pull it off my shelf if you don't mind. Here is the rulebook. If that's not reflecting too much.
Nice.
So it came out very nicely indeed. And not only that, we funded an additional little booklet here, which has a whole bunch of pre-made kaiju in it, which you can use in your game, or if you want a pre-made character, or that way. If you want a pre-made character or something, they've all got little pictures, and they've all got an ability as per in the rulebook. So we managed to fund both of those with the Kickstarter, which is absolutely brilliant.
Excellent.
All of the books have gone out to backers already. So yeah, hopefully everyone's happy. I haven't heard any complaints. Let's put it that way.
I'm just waiting till we start seeing these show up at cons. Kaiju art tabletop role-playing games is something that has been sorely needed.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm very happy to have brought Kaiju to life. I'm really hoping that it gets that slightly wider awareness of it.
So today you are back to talk about a Shades of Vengeance classic, which I believe is getting an update. Balam
is the way I pronounce it. Anyway, I try not to judge people on the way they pronounce things, because apparently I pronounce Ifrit wrongly. Apparently, I learned in Final Fantasy XII after only ever having seen it written. Anyway, Balam. Yes, as you say, it's a classic. Actually, 6 years ago it came out, and I think it didn't get the love that it deserved at the time, because it's actually a really neat little game. But the reason was it came out sort of in the July-August time, and a lot of people are out and enjoying the weather, or spending time with their family during that time, because obviously school holidays and all the rest of it. So backing is lower, but it was originally a response to a Kickstarter creative prompt that they called Projects of Earth, and they wanted some projects that were celebrating Earth in general, civilization, our reach out in space and so on. So me being me, I went ahead and imagined a probe that traveled out of our solar system, and maybe through a wormhole or something by mistake, and fell on an alien planet and blew up, poisoning their atmosphere and killing a whole bunch of their people. So this is my prediction for humanity and how we reach out to the stars. We screw up badly, and the aliens put together this fleet and come looking for the people who attacked them. Sort of like a murderous Battlestar Galactica situation, if you know what I mean. And they eventually find humans in this solar system where the planet Balam is, called HX7371. And they proceed to bomb humanity almost out of existence. And the few survivors, they cobble together some fighters to try and fight back, try and keep the aliens from finding the actual plans and the remains of their colony ship, which actually is on Balam. Because if they did, they might find their way back to Earth, and then who knows what would happen to humanity. So, they're trying to they're trying to, you as a player, trying to stop the aliens from wiping everyone out. And this new upgrade, it adds a whole load of stuff that I really wanted to put in the first place, but didn't really have the resources, or even in some cases the experience to do. It's got a map of the solar system, and that sounds basic, but it wasn't there before. It's got more enemy stats. It's got a mission generator. So you grab a D10 and roll it 4 times, and it'll help you generate a session, basically, about what's going to happen and how things are going to work. So you've basically got on an unlimited number of sessions that you can then easily run just by rolling a dice a few times. So there are loads of possibilities around this that, and there's the odd typo, the odd errata that I wanted to fix and bits and pieces like that. But I've really beefed up the GM resources in this, and that's what this was really all about.
Very nice. So what it's about space fighters. Can you give us a little bit of example of how a gameplay would work? Is it more about the people piloting the fighters? Is it all about building a ship or getting better ships?
A little bit of both, actually. So the main gameplay will be you, the fighter pilot, in your fighter, traveling through space with your squadron. I made a joke once that what I was doing was basically making D&D classes in space fighters, because you have what's called a main module. And it gives you an ability, and you can switch out your main module. So Era D10 has always been a classless system, and while these main modules are kind of, I'll get to some specific examples in a second, but they're kind of class indicators. You can switch it out if you don't like it at a port. You start off, or you think on this mission, it would be really good to have a stealth module. So, like the Normandy in Mass Effect, you can absorb all the heat you would normally expel and be basically invisible. You can run with that. Or maybe you want to have lots and lots and lots of really close range guns that if you get close, you're going to turn them into Swiss cheese. You're going to turn anything you want. Just it's dead if you get close enough. That's your barbarian, if you like. And then you've got your ranger, you might say, with the long range laser cannon that has just 10 times the range of anything else and can only fire once every 2 turns. So it's kind of like, okay, well, do you fire this turn? Do you wait a turn and then fire next turn? How does all this line up? And you see a lot of thought process going through the players as they make these decisions. You can have a support module which lets you be a mine layer and a mine sweeper. So if there are minefields around, or you think there might be minefields, or you want to lay a minefield because maybe you're doing a defensive operation, you want to lay a minefield, that could be really handy. You might want a support module. And then finally, there's the salvage module, which lets you deploy 3 little salvage drones that will go and kind of either repair friends or try and salvage enemy ships, but they can get shot, or salvage space wreckage, or whatever it is that you want them to do.
Interesting. So then, like you mentioned D&D. So currently in D&D, it's like, I get so many experience, I level up. When I level, I get more powers. Is that sort of how Balam is, or is it more like instead of like leveling up, you get access to different modules to attach to your ship?
So there are only those 5 main modules, but there are a large number of pieces of equipment, different kinds of armor to choose from, and so on, that you get as you go on. And the book is very specific. You can buy some, like directly, you can just buy them from a base that you might stop at. And some of them, you want an alien plasma cannon, you're salvaging that from something you killed and didn't blow up. So there's a lot of thought that goes into, how badly do we wreck these bad guys? Because I want to salvage their armor, because that will let me have the armor that I want to have that works with my playstyle. So that's actually quite a fun aspect of all of this, because beyond everything that you're doing, you're looking at this and going, I might want that. That's a cool thing. I'd quite like to have that instead of what I've got now. I'd like to switch it out. You can even switch out in space if you want to. You can take a spacewalk. It's just on the risky side, Of
course. All right. So if I press the right button, here we go. Okay. So here is the Kickstarter that is currently up for it. That's pretty good. 50 backers already.
Yeah. It's always nice to see this kind of support from the people who, maybe didn't get it the first time but have heard of it, or maybe just people who enjoyed kaiju and thought, oh, I'd like to see what else these guys have to offer. It's really inspiring to see people come on board for a small indie game like this, and it's not expensive. It's what's that in dollars? $12 for the digital, and I think it would be about $17 for the physical. £10 and £15.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
And right now for that, you also get an extra game for free. You'll get Era Dragon Song, our fantasy game. You get this book right here in digital format for free. Oh, yeah, there you go. Which is it's our high fantasy offering. Sorry, I went through that and no pictures showed. There are more pictures than there appear when I flick, I promise. It's got 8 races to play as. It's got 8 schools of magic. It's got a lot of different stuff to have a go at, as well as obviously a briefing on the world. It's only a primer. I'm not going to claim it's a 300-page rulebook, but in fairness, it's free. It's in addition to what you're getting this as well. So if you want to try a high fantasy game in on the Era D10 rule set, that's that. And then in addition to that, we've also got 4 enemy ship stats, which we're also I'm also going to make up. And I'm a big Homeworld fan. The computer game that came out in the late 90s originally. Or was it 2000? 99 or 2000, I forget. And I would love to bring, because Homeworld was a real inspiration for this world. I would love to bring like some larger ships that you need to work together as a team. So you've got, do we hit the maneuver engines because it can only fire forward? Or do we try and take out the weapons, and hope that we can, avoid getting rammed by it? Or how do you work with that when it's a ship that's many times the size of your fighters? And working together as a team to overcome something like that would be actually a really fun thing, I think. So that's my goal with those 4 enemy craft stats. And similar to Kaiju, I'm hoping that we might be able to fund another small booklet. If we get to 8, then I will happily print a booklet.
Nice.
And beyond that, if you scroll down very slightly, we've actually got stretch goals listed. I've been asked for rules for solo play, which I believe I can deliver.
Okay.
And beyond that, I've made a commitment to a mega fan that if we get beyond that, I will write out some rules for your ship landing on a planet and turning into a mecha and being able to wander around.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a separate thing. It's not like canon, but it would be a lot of fun, I think, to have that ability, and it feels like thematically it fits, even though it wouldn't be canon for my universe. I think it'd be a lot of fun to include it.
I think so.
I also promised that I would make that compatible with Era Kaiju, so that you can have your mecha and your kaiju fighting if you would like to. So that's a big challenge, and I promised I'll do that if we get to 3,000. We'll have to see how we go.
Oh, hopefully we'll get to see that. Yeah, it's the system itself was when I don't remember when you came on, but I was looking through all the different titles, and this one interested me because I thought, this almost could be like a spiritual successor to the old Robotech games.
It had crossed my mind. I don't know enough about Robotech to really say for sure, to be completely honest. But I have gone over the Robotech rulebook for a variety of reasons. In fact, it was one of the first rulebooks that I looked through when I was researching how to write a rulebook for Era of the Consortium 12 years ago. The fact is that the friend who pushed me to publish in the first place is friends with Kevin Cepeda from Palladium, and they did the Robotank books. So, he said, "Oh, hey, go look at this. This is how they do it. What are you going to do differently?" And that was an invaluable lesson for me.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, to be a spiritual successor, all you need to do is have your ships transform into robots. That's about it.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
that or you could go the other way, which is when you're having a bunch of people, they could combine to form.
Yeah, you could do the Voltron thing, right? Yeah.
Maybe for version 2.0.
I haven't really worked out what size a beta kaiju that you were playing Era kaiju would be relative to a fighter. I've never actually measured how long I think a Paladin fighter is. I definitely think the kaiju would be bigger. The way I've written Era kaiju, I think the kaiju would be bigger. Because they are one-man fighters, and even though they contain sort of life support and a place to sleep and so on, they probably aren't more than 20 meters long, which is a lot shorter than a kaiju. Even a beta kaiju is a lot bigger than that. So, yeah, maybe they do need to Megazord it up, as you might say.
Exactly. Or a successor to Pacific Rim. That's what it could be.
Yeah, indeed. I believe that was the ulterior motive behind the guy who asked me about this. I think he wanted to reenact Pacific Rim.
Well, that was a classic.
I enjoyed the movie. I think it was a very interesting thing, and I think that the second movie, I know everyone hates it. I think it actually had some elements which were really quite good, and then like 80% of it was terrible. And it's sort of like you look at it and you go, I really wish you'd played more into this 20% that were really good ideas.
Yeah. I saw a review of the first one that I thought summed it up well. It's either the dumbest awesome movie or the awesomest dumb movie ever.
Yeah. I wouldn't tell Del Toro that. He might get upset.
I could live with that. But so tell us a little bit more about Balam. You've got a number of stretch goals. Tell us a bit about the character and the ship, and are all the ships the same base model, and it's just different attachments, or can you get different sort of base models of the ship, or how does that work?
The canon answer to that is that they're all sort of built to one design, but they're built with the parts on hand. So I encourage people to customize their ship. Like, oh yeah, the right thruster always sticks, so you have to kind of stamp in this place on the floor to make it work properly. It's those flavors are the things that really make the game sing. It makes it work just so much nicer when you start adding foibles to your ship. So I always encourage people like, oh yeah, yeah, fine. They are the same sort of base idea. You're gonna have a one-man fighter that's in roughly this shape and has roughly these things on it. I mean, none of the things you can see them actually coming up there on that beautiful GIF done by Leonardo. Yeah, I mean, you've got the same basic things on it. You've got forward guns, you've got maneuver engines, you've got a main module, you've got main engines, you've got hull. Fine. But the foibles of your own ship, they're up to you. This game is really all about duality. It's about the relationship between the pilot and the ship. And you aren't playing the pilot, you're playing the pilot and the ship. The ship literally is your strength, your stamina, your dexterity. Those stats on your character sheet come from your ship, not from you, the person. So they describe your ship. Whereas your intelligence, your willpower, your wits, your mental reaction time, your luck, your charisma, obviously that's all describing you, the pilot, rather than trying to describe the ship. So it's only when they're together that they're actually a complete character, a complete entity. And you might step off your ship, you might wander around on a planet, but you're not going to be doing lots of fighting in the Balam universe, because if you're stepping off your ship, you're probably relatively safe, or you're dead. One or the other. So there's not lots of ground combat rules and so on. The book doesn't actually include that stuff. That said, I've had people pick up Era of the Consortium, which has all of that stuff, and then, run along, and they all jump in their fighters and they head out, and you use the Balam rules for that. And then when you land on a planet again, you're back to Era of the Consortium and doing most of that, because fighters in Era of the Consortium, it's a different paradigm. You in Era of the Consortium, you were doing big ship combat. You were doing Homeworld, basically. You were doing, here's the mothership, here's the destroyer, here's the cruiser. You're on large scales, and the fighters are just kind of buzzing around doing their thing, and they exist and they can do damage, but they're not important. In Balam, it's all about this one-man ship, because even the aliens mostly make one-man ships. Or fighters anyway. Actually, canonically, the alien ships are two-man ships. They're actually like a double, like a Gemini job. You're in a fighter, but the fighter is as much your character as your person, your human character who you are playing as.
Very nice. That's one thing that really impresses me too about the Era system is, it seems like these games are, for the most part, pretty easy to make interconnected. Like if I wanted to explore more with the people, I could just get that consortium, booklet as well, and just make modifications or make my own world pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying that we've got a stretch goal coming up, which offers the Era of the Consortium rulebook primer. It's 80 backers. If we get to 80, we will give you the Era of the Consortium rulebook primer. That gives you everything you need to do exactly what we just described. But the thing about Era D10 is it's not GURPS. It's not trying to be everything. That's never been the intention.
Right.
But that brings with it something a little bit unique, a little bit interesting, because let's take, for example, superheroes and zombie apocalypse. Now, that's Era Survival and Era the Empowered, for anyone who's wondering. You could put Era the Empowered superheroes in Era Survival, and you would get superpowers in the apocalypse. Someone once pitched an idea, and I loved it. I never really followed up on it massively, but I loved it. Of the zombie apocalypse happens, and the only people strong enough to survive are the superheroes. So now the supervillains are like, well, there's no one to rule over. So why am I being a supervillain? Like, there's no world to rule anymore. There's nothing here. There's no point. Sort of that existential crisis was an idea for a comic that someone had. And if you do it the other way, you can just put zombies into the world of Era the Empowered, and that will be a totally different experience because of the way the weapons are balanced, because of the way the equipment works, because of the way there's durability in the Era Survival world, but not in the Era the Empowered world. So depending on which direction you mix them in, you actually get two different games with completely different feels that suit a completely different group of people and what they're looking for. You can have this dark and horrific sort of end of the superhero era, or you can have this, oh no, this is a threat that we can stop in the superhero world. And Era Balam, Era the Consortium, all of the others, they all have this ability. I even wrote an entire zine, Era Zone number 6, about how you would combine things and what that would mean. And some of them were literally just, you combine this with this, you get that. You combine that with that, the other way around, and you get this instead, and this is what that's like. And I wrote an entire zine on the subject.
Oh, very cool. So you had said that you always wanted to have the map that was in there. Was there anything else that was left sort of undone that was always bugging you since you...
enemy stats. I never put enough of them in the rulebook, and I wanted to keep the page count down because I want to keep the print cost low, and I want to keep the sale price low, right? You know, I want this to be a cheap book that people can buy. I don't want people to feel like they have to, you know, pay the earth to have a go at the pocket games. You know, that they're brief and they're basic in their background.
Mm-hmm.
But I added some background to the new version of the book as well. There was a bit more I wanted to add about what it's like to be a pilot. So everything that I've added to 1.1 that wasn't in there before was something that I really wanted to add. You know, I've been sat there for 5 years going, I really, really wish I'd been able to include this. And I just decided, you know what, it's time. It's been 6 years now. I think I can just add in these things and make another book and extend it by 8 pages, and it can still be a great book that people can enjoy.
Oh, that's not that bad. That's only a small addition to the page count.
Yeah, I mean, it was 36 pages before, so it's basically 1/4 bigger than it was.
Oh, well, I guess when you put it that way, it does sound much larger, but...
No, so not quite. I can't count. It's not quite 1/4, but in fairness, I'm gonna plead. It's late here in the UK, and I can't count
now. No worries. So you know, I know you have updated Era the Empowered. Do you, when you're updating these things, is it more like, oh, you know, I just want to add these few things, or do you ever feel the desire that like, you know, I really need to make a 2.0, I need to make a big change, or is it usually just sort of, it's a little tweak here and there?
So I do a lot of playtesting. I'm very thorough with what goes out in the first place, and I'm not going to pretend it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I do make changes. There are things that I'm not happy with, but I think that in general, I'm very happy with each game. There's one overarching thing. I am really disappointed with myself around the way that I did initiative in this system, because I didn't think about it. Right? You roll one dice and you add it to your initiative number. It's what everyone does for initiative. It makes no sense within the game. I suddenly found myself explaining this to everybody, that this is how initiative works. And it makes no sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. It's got nothing mechanically, if that makes sense. It's completely different to everything else that happens in the entire game. And I don't have any good reason for it, apart from, well, I never really thought of anything else. And unfortunately, the obvious answer, it would result in too many ties. So I don't have a great and immediate answer. But if I was to do a 2.0, initiative is where things would start. That is the number one thing that I would change in the system in general. I just haven't quite hit the right way to do it yet.
Well, that makes sense. So you've got all these games. You've got all the feedback. Are you ever surprised at sort of your players, or I should say the people who play your games, at their own headcanon and where things like spin off?
So some people really, really go out there And they're like, oh, I imagine it's like this, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, I literally have no idea what you're talking about. But cool, if it works. I mean, for me, a role-playing game is about opening doors, not closing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world that I write, the world that exists, it's probably what I run.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably what people are going to want if they don't want to come up with their own thing. But if someone looks at Balam and says, oh, I know, Battlestar Galactica, fine, cool, okay, if that's what you want to do, and those are the rules that suit it for you, let's go, let's do that. Absolutely. I want people to be able to play the game that they want to when they sit down at the table. And if that involves the Era D10 rule set because it delivers what people want, then I could not be happier, even if they're not going to go and play in the official Era Balam universe. If they're sat with people having fun at the table, my job is done. That's what it's all about for me. It's about delivering a game that people can play, enjoy, and whatever story they're telling, work together, have fun, experience the hobby the way it should be experienced, and not feel like they have to do it right.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there is any way of doing it right, to be completely honest.
The right way is when people have fun playing it. That's the right way.
Absolutely. When everyone at the table is having fun, that is right.
So as a game designer, you've got quite a number of games under your belt. When you started I guess technically there were virtual tabletops, but realistically there weren't there wasn't Roll20, Foundry, all those kind of systems.
I mean, they kind of existed, but yeah, you're right. They weren't widely used, not as widely as they are now.
Has their rise in popularity changed the way you design? I don't think I've ever met anyone who said they prefer to play online to in person, but it's kind of a necessary evil.
So that's a really interesting question because, no, it's not. But the reason is I started in person and I started running games at conventions with a map that was printed out and laminated, and I would draw on it with board pens. And I was running games at conventions for years before a virtual tabletop, before I ever saw one. So, me personally, I don't like virtual tabletops when I'm running a game. And that's me, and I'm not judging anyone who does, but I get too distracted by making sure every detail is right. Oh, no, that hill's not there, it's there. Oh, no, okay, you're not there, you're over here now. And trying to do all that, it's an additional cognitive load that doesn't actually matter to the stories that I tell.
Yes.
What you need to know is, am I close enough to shoot the bad guy or stab the bad guy or whatever it is you want to do? That's the only time distance matters. And the answer might be yes. It might be no, and you're not going to get close enough because you're miles away. Or it might be you're not quite close enough, but if you do a run, then I'll give you a 50% dice penalty, but you can still attack. It's going to be one of those three things, and it's basically always one of those three things. So trying to count hexes to find that out, I find that's, to my storytelling method, that's very disruptive. I prefer to go, oh no, this is what it looks like. Here's a picture of how the area looks, or here's a description of how the area looks. Are there any smells? What's going on here? Here are the bad guys. They look like this, or they're coming, or they're just coming over the hill, or they're already there and you're approaching, or whatever. Go. What do you want to do? And then do my best to say yes without violating the laws of physics. Because that just annoys everyone else at the table, even if that person is having fun and gets to do what they want. If it makes no sense, then obviously it upsets people. And rightly so. So it didn't really change the way that I approach it, because a lot of people do use virtual tabletops, or they use maps in real life or whatever. And I always set everything up so that if you want to be counting hexes, you can count hexes in Era of the Consortium. It is very clear what the distances are. They are specified. And then I personally throw them out the window and go, yeah, you're close enough. It's fine.
Okay. I'm just curious. Obviously during the COVID years, virtual tabletops sort of took off when people were stuck in their houses. But I do think that they are good in the sense that if you had friends that you went to school with and you were gaming with them 30, 40 years ago, you could still game with them over virtual tabletops, whereas
definitely.
most people are all over the place. Yeah.
If that's your style, then good for you. Absolutely, go do it. And Era D10, all of the Era games support that, and I think it's really important that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, that's just not my style. And everyone, well, it's like you were saying, there's no wrong way of doing it. If everyone's having fun, then it's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
Do it your way. And my way is not to use a virtual tabletop because like I say, I just get distracted.
Interesting. And so one other thing that I didn't quite realize that you had been working on, but Cataclysm.
Yeah. So one of the things, just in case anyone's new to hearing me on your channel, one of the things I do is I also make comics. And it's worth saying that I don't really see myself as a game creator or as a comic creator or as a card game creator or as an audio drama writer. I build universes. And when I'm building a role-playing game for a universe, I'm trying to do all of the things that we were just talking about, where you can play whatever game that you want. And that's what I'm aiming to do when I deliver a role-playing game. When I deliver a comic, I'm aiming to deliver you an entertaining and interesting story that you're going to want to pick up, you're going to want to read, you're going to want to experience. And it is very, very likely to be within one of the universes that also there's a role-playing game. So if you pick it up, you experience it, and you go, wow, I want to be in this world. And disclaimer, if you want to be in the world of Cataclysm, I advise you get your head looked at, because you don't. But the world of Era Lost Legend in general, absolutely, it's a Final Fantasy inspired world. You can tell by the enormous sword, presumably. It's a Final Fantasy inspired world. There is a role playing game for it, Era Lost Legend, that came out several years ago now. And this is the first comic in that world. It's actually set 5 years after the end of the story of the book. So it's not spoiling anything in the book. And the book doesn't spoil anything in this. And this is about a hero, Dinah, who you've seen. She was originally... I changed her name, but she was originally named Dinah Saw because she's a lizard lady. I had to change the name because that's just too ridiculous. I also didn't name her Dynamite, but it was tempting as well. But this is Dinah, and she was part of a group that saved the world 5 years ago. And she's the last surviving member of that group. Well, not quite. There are 2 surviving members of that group, but no one knows where the other one is. The other one's gone missing. She actually, ironically, took over running a fried chicken franchise for... I'm not kidding, this is her backstory. She took over running a fried chicken franchise because one of the heroes who died saving the world, that was what he was going to do. But he died unexpectedly at the last second. And she therefore picked up running this fried chicken franchise, which is called Hedge Your Bets Chicken. I know, it sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely the place you go when you're a little bit drunk. Anyway, she took over running this fried chicken franchise for the last 5 years. But then one day, a meteor lands on the city. About 250,000 people die. It's horrific. It's really bad. But that's not the bad thing. I'm sad to say. Like, that's not the worst thing. Because what happens is orange crystals start raining from the sky. And if they hit someone, they transform them into monsters almost instantly. Now, crystals transforming people into monsters is a known thing in this world. The crystals are normally a cyan, kind of a light blue color, a bit like my face appears right now. They're normally that kind of color, and this orange crystal, no one knows where it came from. But we start to observe, and actually, if you scroll down just a tiny bit, we start to observe Behemoth, which is a giant dragon creature. One more. There we go. It's a giant dragon creature, which is... It was actually trapped within the crystal and launched away from the world because it was too dangerous. And with the crystal coming back, this creature has come back and now has control over every shard of this crystal. And it's going to take over the world. It's going to wreak bloody revenge on everyone for what was done to it millennia ago. And it's turning people into monsters like the Caprig above. If you just scroll up from there, you know, that massive, terrifying... That's enormous. Like, a person is about up to its wrist, just to give you an idea of its size. It's enormous. And we get a little bit of insight into why people are turning very suddenly. But during the comic, but I don't want to spoiler you. So this is sort of like the start of a journey to save the world again for Dinah and then the other two characters, Nika and James, who are going to be joining her on this journey, at least to begin with. And the story was actually inspired by a tabletop role-playing campaign that I ran. Now, I've heavily rewritten and re-edited it to make it a bit more entertaining as a comic, because while it can be a lot of fun doing a role-playing game, it doesn't necessarily translate perfectly. So I've rewritten a lot of stuff and I've made it a bit more comic focused, you know, a bit more dramatic, a bit more instant, not so much standing around discussing should we steal the car or not, and a bit more, that happened, oh my god, what's going on, and that's what I wanted from this, and it's what I want from the rest of the issues if we manage to unlock some more issues in this series. That's certainly my hope. That only launched yesterday, and it's already funded, so that's really nice to see. It's only just over 24 hours old. I'm going to have to start thinking about stretch goals, but probably the obvious ones are, here's the next issue.
That's cool. So, do you have like... let me put it this way. Do you have like a beginning, middle, and end to this storyline in mind? Or do you see it more like most Western comics would be, which are fairly open-ended?
No. This has a beginning, which is this comic. It has a middle and it has an end, and that is the journey that will exist. I can tell more stories about Dinah, about Nika, about James, and about Artemis and the various other characters which are going to come into play. But this story is about... I wouldn't even like to say defeating Behemoth, because I'm not certain that most people would call what happens defeating Behemoth. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. It probably... I mean, exactly how I pace it is going to decide how many issues it is. It could be anywhere between 10 and 30, but there's a definite, here is where it ends. This is the end of this story.
And do you have like any proposed like release schedule? Like, I'm going to do one a year, two a year, one every other year?
I'd love to say that I do, but it at the moment, with this being 24 hours old, it depends on the amount of support we get. If we get lots of support and enough that we can, I don't know, do one a month, I will do one a month. As long as the artist can keep up with that. And obviously that's quite a tall order for an artist to keep up with that. You know, I'm not saying that it's possible, but you know, I will work with the artist to release as frequently as we possibly can. And for him, you know, if Pakapol is his name, he's a lovely guy, and for him, if I'm able to pay the money that he doesn't need to work on other projects, he will focus on this project, and he does not work slowly. You know, this did not take a long time to put together at all. And that included sort of getting to know each other and learning to work together, which is often one of the longest things that it takes in comics. Oh, when I said this, I kind of meant this, not that.
Yeah.
Is a lot of the problem. And actually, you know, it's funny. The last edit that we did on every single page is the sword, because Dinah's sword was drawn a bit inconsistently. It is slightly curved. It has a silver grey hilt, has a silver grey edge of the blade, and a blue center of the blade. And getting that consistent on every page was actually the last edit that we made to every single page.
Oh, that makes sense. We can really only see like 4 pages, but I like the artwork in it so far.
Thank you very much. I really like the way it looks. It's not my normal go-to for comics, and that's deliberate, because this is a different kind of story. You know, it's a world that's inspired by JRPGs. It is written as a Western comic. It goes left to right, but I wanted it to have a bit more of that flavor of art style, because I don't know anything about manga, or enough about manga to go ahead and write manga. I can't do that.
Right.
But what I can do is write something that's a fusion. I've been playing Final Fantasy games for 20 plus years. Plus years, man. 20 plus years. I keep forgetting what year it is. I mean, I started with Final Fantasy VII because it came out on PC in the late 90s.
Yeah, 97-ish?
97, I believe it was. 98. One or the other, anyway. That's where I started. So I've been playing Final Fantasy games for years, and I know what Final Fantasy feels like, and I made my own world based on the things that I know, you know, and I want that feeling. And I felt like this art style was the appropriate thing to do to make that world really come to life in the right way, in the right feel. Rather than drawing it like a Western comic, we drew it like this.
Yeah, it seems to me that that's sort of where things seem to be headed, where a lot, you know, it's very rare that you would see either the old Marvel and DC house styles or even something closer to like 2000 AD. It seems like incorporating a lot of sort of, fusion, but I don't know, little manga flavor is really what people seem to get excited about these days in the indie scene.
There is some truth to that. I mean, to be honest, I find it slightly frustrating, because, you know, when I'm making a superhero story, I don't see the manga side to it, you know, not the way that I write superhero stories. So, you know, I wanted to. I want to bring the story to life in the right way for that story. And I know what a story looks like. So it frustrates me a little bit because, yeah, a lot of the artists who apply, you know, they're doing even more manga than this kind of style. And I look at that and I think, that's not quite what I want here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's sort of two things. One is if you go too far with the manga, you really risk sort of losing the plot, because to me, manga and Western comics are not the same thing. It's like they're close, but it's kind of like Spanish and Portuguese. They're pretty similar, but not the same.
Like you can read one knowing the other, but one of the things that really blows me away about some of the best manga is the pacing.
Yeah.
And it's just so totally different. Just the way that pacing works in manga is just not the same.
The pacing, there's a lot of like visual language cues, even things like, you know, a nosebleed or like the crying eyes,
red eyes like or that. Blue eyes, or absolutely.
And unfortunately, I think that a lot of people who try to just do straight manga they don't really understand that visual library, which is why a lot of it comes out strange. But I do think that, there are a lot of elements to all art. There's a certain sense of like fashion, and fashion changes over time. So
yeah,
John Byrne's style might not be such a hit, whereas if it's a little more manga-esque visually, it seems, at least at the moment, to be more popular.
Well, we'll definitely find out with this, won't we? Because we'll see how Cataclysm does, which is a bit more of a manga fusion, as we're saying. A bit more of that style, visual style. And we'll see how this does in another, what is it left? I've lost track.
11 days.
11 days. So
but you're already
11 days.
But you're already past the goal, so that means if somebody orders it, it's going to get to them.
It's happening. It's going to come.
Interesting. So what kind of things are up your sleeve for Shades of Vengeance? Like, what's the thing you really want to tackle for this year? For the rest of the year?
Well, I've been working for a little while on a Dark Souls inspired role playing game.
Oh.
I have not, I should say, looked at Steamforged's one that they did. I've heard some things about it. I wouldn't like to repeat them because I know nothing about it. But I've been a fan of the Soul genre for a long time, and I wanted to go ahead and do that. So I've brought my own kind of ideas to life. I've been working with a brilliant artist from Ukraine. He lives in Kyiv. And I've been getting artwork from him to support his life there.
Oh, nice.
Fortunately, it seems the fighting's a long way away from him right now. He seems pretty safe. But I've been working with this wonderful artist who's really been bringing it to life. So I'm actually getting closer and closer. I did the final list of equipment and spells today. That's now pinned down, and I know what they all are. I have completely revamped the combat system and the way it works from Era D10. And honestly, I've never seen a game that works in the way that I have come up with for Soul Mist. So I call it Era Soul Mist.
Nice.
Because a mist rolled in over this peninsula that sort of sucked the souls out of people is the backstory. And I really want to get that done by the end of the year. I've also got Era Friction underway, which is an action hero game where you play as an 80s or 90s action hero.
Yes.
And not only that, continuity errors are just part of reality. So you are able to just go, I need to reload my gun, but I don't have time. I spend a friction point, my gun is reloaded. Or in the extreme case, I'm the Jason Statham transporter type character, and there's a helicopter of ninjas coming up to the top of Nakatomi Plaza. I need a car on the roof right now so I can drive the car off the roof and hit the helicopter with it before the ninjas can get here and stop us.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's crazy, it's stupid, it's fun, and the playtest for it went down so well. The artwork's taking a bit longer than I would have ideally liked, but it is underway, and I'm hoping that it will complete fairly soon now. I'm really looking forward to... excuse me. I'm really looking forward to Era Friction. That'll be another pocket game, a bit like Balam or Kaiju or Dead West.
Oh, very nice.
I've got... what else have I got? I've got another game which I can't really talk about yet because it's a bit far away going on. I've got... Oh! Here's one. Designed by committee. I I did a workshop just under a month ago now at MCM Comic Con called "Create an RPG in an Hour" with Ed Jowett. And I expected like 5 people to turn up. 33 people turned up.
Oh, wow.
And we came up with the concept of diesel punk shark ninjas who are fighting alien diesel-powered robots to get to save humanity, because humanity are much tastier when they're free range and not cooped up in cells all the time.
This might be the greatest game ever.
I think there is a genuine possibility. I've been heavily inspired by Street Sharks, so I'm imagining like a Street Shark looking shark ninja with a chainsawed katana, running around, smashing up and ripping apart alien robots that are powered by diesel. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. I had 2 groups, just to give you an idea. I split everyone up into groups, and 2 groups came up with the same idea without, like, they were opposite ends of the room. I don't think they heard each other. Did you know that shark can expel their teeth at some significant rate?
What?
They can actually fire their teeth at things.
No, I never heard that.
Idea. I didn't know this. They're the shuriken that the ninjas use. The ninja sharks use their teeth as
yes.
shuriken. And we've got things like if you make a robot bleed, then the sharks can smell it a long way away. Bleed diesel, that is. The shark can smell it a long way away because obviously the blood shark in water, and people were going really deep into like what shark anatomy allows and trying to fit that into the game to make it fit. It was a lot of fun, absolutely insane. I've got a list of notes here from there. I've even got someone was artistically inclined and therefore did a few sketches of what these shark ninjas might look like. Where are we? I've got to show you one of these. I can't tease that, can I? And then not deliver. Where are we? Yeah, I've got written here on this piece of paper: Shark Ninja versus Diesel Robots in big letters.
Wow.
Where have they gone?
Is there going to be some bit about since they're diesel robots, they're ruining climate change?
Yeah, well, they're enslaving the humans to drill oil for them. So yeah, definitely, definitely going to be some problems in there. Oh, there we go. No, there we don't go. There we go. There we go. One of the groups was thinking about combat mechanics and thought about like, there we go. Thought about, do we have hitboxes for various areas? I don't know if I'll use that or not.
Nice.
But there you go. Here is a shark ninja.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that game.
It's gonna be totally insane. That's the only thing I can promise about this game.
So as a designer, a game designer, how do you make the decision between like, I'll just make a completely new game versus I'm going to take one of the games that I've already made and make like a campaign setting or, just like an add-on book for a current system that you have versus something totally new?
That's a really good question. And I don't have a great answer for you. The reason being, it's sort of what I feel like, what I'm inspired by, what I think people will enjoy, what I want to see, what I think other people want to see. It's one of the benefits of, I work a full-time job in addition to my creativity. And I think it's one of the benefits that comes with that because I don't have to, if something's not super, super popular and it's like, but I really wanted to do it, that's fine. That's okay. I can do something that I'm going to like, that I'm going to enjoy, that maybe isn't like the outstanding financial success of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all right, because I can wait a little longer and then do the next thing. If I wanted to do just what was popular, I think I would be very much stuck into, right, what's popular right now. We've still got kaiju going on. You know what? I'm a bit bored of kaiju right now, but no, I have to do something more for era kaiju. I have to create more content for this game because that's the thing that's popular right now. What else is popular right now? I don't know. My brain's gone blank. But I certainly wouldn't be making anything for Era the Empowered, for example, because superheroes are not really having their height at the moment. So I look and I go, what doesn't exist that I most want to make a reality? What have I been playing or watching or reading recently? What makes me think, oh, I'd like to do that. I look at that and I think, oh, I could do that differently, maybe better in a sense. I'd like to do, if I was going to do that, I'd do it like this, not like that. And I try to allow myself the space to enjoy myself when I'm creating, because I think that's really important. It's they say, oh, make your hobby your job and you'll never work a day in your life. No, make your hobby your job and you will hate your hobby because it's now work. I'm definitely very close to that line, but I do get to do some things, and Cataclysm being a really good example. There was no reason to do Cataclysm except that I wanted to do it. I wanted to bring that story to life that we'd experienced. We'd told that story together, myself and 6 other people who had played the game and we'd told that story. We had fun, and sadly we never quite got to the end of the story. The group fell apart for the normal reasons a group falls apart after about 18 sessions, and we never quite got to the very, very end. And that made me want to tell that story in a different way, a slightly different way, in order to actually tell that story. So that's why Cataclysm means a lot to me. It really matters to me to get Cataclysm funded, to get another issue funded if I can, because it'll mean that we get to tell that story.
Well, I know that it is getting quite late there in the UK, so
yeah, I'm trying not to yawn.
Don't want to keep you on too long, but for everyone, don't know what happened there.
You probably hovered over the menu at the top, which you can now do, because that's deeply inconvenient.
Ouch! All right,
yeah,
watch out for that.
UI is not going uphill.
But Era Balam, there is a link down in the description, as well as for Cataclysm. So if you want to play a space-based game where you are a human, but also a space fighter, go check it out. Cataclysm, the comic book, issue 1, is coming out. Anything else we should be aware of coming up?
No, not really. I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me back.
Of course.
I really appreciate you making time for me. I always love sitting down having a chat with you. There aren't very many people who ask me the kinds of questions that you ask me, and for example about when I create, why, and I wrote in big letters on the Balam Kickstarter. You might have noticed, but why?
I
And there aren't very many people who ask me those kinds of questions, so I always appreciate that. It's nice to come on and not just be asked the same questions over and over again, but really be asked something that's trying to penetrate into an area of interest.
Well, I will always love having you. It's always something fun to talk about, and hopefully we'll see you back again before too long.
You probably will.
So for anyone who hasn't, if you could like this video on whatever platform you're on, and subscribe to the whatever channel you're on, X, YouTube, Rumble. give Ed a sub on.
Rumble? I've
I
never heard of
know.
Rumble.
Seriously?
Rumble? Yeah, never heard of it.
Oh, it's like the censorship-free alternative to YouTube. So it's they recently opened up live streaming to everyone. I'm not 100% sure this is actually streaming on Rumble, but it may be. So I'll have to check it out after we're done.
Find out.
Yeah, but check that out. And for anyone, Era, the various games are fantastic. But if you've got a hankering for something Dungeons and Dragons, why don't you check out my campaign guide to 5th edition D&D, a horror campaign called Empire of the Undying Sun. Check it out, empireoftheundyingssun.com. Currently a little testing on the website, but it'll be up. There will be a Kickstarter late September, just in time for spook season. And hopefully we'll see you all there. I will be back next week. I believe we're going to have at least one comic book person, but need to finish up the scheduling first. So thanks for coming, everyone. Ed, thank you. And we'll see you guys later.